Hey everyone, welcome back. Big breaking news today, and I want to make sure you hear it clearly, calmly, and without any of the noise that's been swirling around online. President Trump signed an executive order, and at almost the same moment, the White House confirms that his administration is actively moving forward with a plan for new dividend checks. And that timing, well, it sparked a wave of confusion across the entire country. Millions of Americans, especially seniors living on fixed incomes, saw those two announcements happen within minutes of each other and immediately began asking the same urgent question. Are these dividend checks real? And will I qualify? If that's the question on your mind today, you're not alone. My name is Susan Harper, and for more than 10 years, I've helped seniors understand the financial decisions coming out of Washington. The ones that affect Social Security retirement savings and your month to month sense of stability. So before any panic sets in end, before any false hope spreads, I want to sit with you, slow the conversation down, and walk through exactly what happened, exactly what was confirmed, and what all of this could realistically mean for your wallet. No politics, no drama, just clarity you can trust. Now let's start with the very first thing that caused all the confusion. Yes, President Trump did sign an executive order. And yes, almost at the same time, the White House confirmed a major update about Trump's plan for new dividend payments funded by tariff revenue. But even though these two announcements happened side by side, they were not connected at all. That disconnect is the reason seniors across America have been feeling overwhelmed, excited, anxious, and unsure about what's real. The executive order itself had absolutely nothing to do weak $2,000 dividend checks or any kind of financial payment. It was focused on supporting teenagers aging out of the foster care system. A meaningful and emotional moment for many families, but not related to financial relief. What happened next was something I see all the time. The internet blended two separate announcements into one big dramatic story. Headlines started mixing the words executive order and payments together. And before long, seniors who are already stretched thin, seniors trying to cover groceries, prescriptions, and rising bills understandably assumed this executive order must have triggered the new checks. And I truly get why. When you're living on a fixed income and leave your hints of potential relief, your heart jumps before your mind can sort through the details. That is why I wanted to begin right here. You deserve clarity, not confusion. You deserve to know exactly what is true, exactly what is rumor, and exactly what deserves your attention. So here's the bottom line. The executive order was one event, and the confirmation about new dividend payments was a separate event entirely. The two were never meant to be linked, even though the timing made it look that way. Now that the misunderstanding is out of the way, we can finally talk about what the White House actually confirmed. The part that does matter for your financial future, and that's where things become especially important for seniors like you. Now that we've separated the executive order from the online rumors, let's talk about what the White House actually confirmed. Bacao said, "This is the part millions of seniors have been waiting to understand." Separate from the foster care announcement, President Trump made a very public and very direct statement about his plan to issue new dividend payments funded entirely by tariff revenue. And this wasn't whispered in a speech or hinted behind the scenes. He repeated it multiple times in writing and on camera, saying he intends to provide a dividend of at least $2,000 per person, specifically to lower end middle income Americans. Not vague language, not a political tease. That's a clear commitment spoken loudly. And know that millions heard it. When a president makes a statement like that across official platforms, in front of the press week to the weight of the White House behind it, it carries meaning. Public promises at that level are not easy to walk back. They signal that the administration is actively shaping a plan, even if the legal structure isn't finished yet. What stood out most to me, and what I think matters deeply to you as a senior, is who Trump repeatedly pointed to as the intended recipients. He didn't describe high earners or wealthy households. He talked about everyday Americans, families on tight budgets, seniors living on fixed incomes, veterans relying on disability checks, and people who feel every jump in grocery prices and every medical cost at the heart of the population he referenced. These aren't people with the huge investment accounts or large retirement portfolios. These are the people stretched thin, the ones who lose sleep over inflation, the ones choosing which bills to delay because there isn't quite enough left at the end of the month. So, when Trump emphasized lower and middle and Americans again and again, he was speaking directly to the financial reality that so many seniors live in every day. And that's why this confirmation from the White House matters. It wasn't attached to the executive order, and it wasn't hidden in political jargon. It was an openly stated intention: relief payments aimed at Americans who need help the most. But I want to take you one step deeper because I know the next thought on your mind is probably the same one so many seniors have shared with me this week. Susan, does that mean I qualify? And that's an important question, one I want to answer as clearly and honestly as possible. Why the administration hasn't released official income limits yet? We do have strong clues based on recent history. Monsago Senator Josh Hawley introduced a tariff-funded dividend proposal very similar to what Trump is now supporting, and that bill capped eligibility at individuals earning under $100,000. Trump publicly backed that framework at the time. And when you combine that week his repeated references to middle and lower income Americans, we have a realistic picture of what qualification might look like for most seniors. This is meaningful. If you live on Social Security, if your retirement income is modest, if you receive VA disability SSD, or simply fall under that 6F figure range, you are almost certainly within the group being discussed. And Trump added one more requirement that's important to understand. The payments would go only to U.S. citizens. He stated that directly. DIT excludes temporary residents, visa holders, and non-citizens, but it includes the vast majority of retired Americans who have spent their lives paying into the system. Just as important as who's included is who's not. High-income earners, especially those well above six figures, would not receive these payments. This is not a universal stimulus. It's a targeted proposal aimed at Americans who actually feel financial pressure. Still, even with all these clues, I want to be gentle and honest with you. Nothing is final until a legal framework is written, whether through Congress or another approved mechanism. But based on everything said publicly, everything proposed previously, and everything emphasized so far, seniors weak to modest incomes are right at the center of this discussion. And that alone makes this moment worth paying close attention to. Now that we've talked about who these payments are meant for, let's slow things down and to look at a question that still leaves many seniors feeling unsure. Where would this money actually come from? No matter how promising a proposal sounds, you deserve to know whether the funding behind it is realistic or just political noise. The foundation of this entire plan is something called tariff revenue, and I want to explain it in the simplest, most down-to-earth way possible. When the United States places tariffs on imported goods, cars, steel, electronics, pharmaceuticals, everyday products, the companies bringing those items into the country must pay a fee to the federal government. Fino fit like a tax on foreign goods. That money goes straight into the U.S. Treasury, and depending on how high those tariffs are set, that revenue can grow very quickly. President Trump has argued for years that these tariffs generate far more money than people think, and his recent statements. He said plainly that this reboot could be used to fund direct dividend checks for American citizens. He even compared it, at least in concept, to something Alaska residents already experience, where a portion of state revenue from natural resources is redistributed to the public through yearly payments. Now, tariffs and oil profits are not the same thing, but the idea behind them is similar. Money collected from outside sources being redirected back to everyday people. The truth is, the revenue source for this plan does exist. The challenge is not the money. It's building a legal structure that allows the government to send it out for a payment of this scale. There must be a formal process. A Congress must pass a law authorizing it, or some other federal mechanism must be created that can survive legal review. That city part that takes time. And I want you to hear this gently from me because I know how much hope many seniors are carrying right now. The funding potential may be real, but the delivery system is not finished yet. That doesn't mean it won't happen. It simply means we are still in the phase where the pieces are being discussed, shaped, and positioned. And anytime a plan moves from ideas into early structure, it's worth paying attention, especially when that plan is aimed at people living on modest incomes who need relief the most. And this brings us directly to the question I hear most often. Susan, when will these checks actually arrive? You want to answer that honestly because your peace of mind matters more to me than any headline. Ever called? Right now. As of today, there is no official date, no payment schedule, no federal release timeline. And I know that can feel frustrating, especially when news articles and social media posts make it sound like money could show up tomorrow morning. But I want to bring you back to something history has taught us. Every major federal payment in recent years, including all three stimulus checks during the pandemic, had to go through a structured legal process before a single dollar reached the public, even when the government moved quickly. It still required debate, negotiation, approval, and then time for the IRS to distribute the funds. The first stimulus took weeks after the law passed. The second and the third followed the same pattern. So, if a similar model is used for these dividend payments, we could be looking at a timeline of several weeks to a few months once a formal framework is introduced. Not overnight, but also not out of reach. And here's the hopeful side of this moment. When a president makes a promise publicly, loudly and repeatedly, it creates pressure. Pressure on lawmakers, pressure on agencies, pressure on the system to act. That doesn't guarantee a specific date, but it does make the possibility stronger. So, as we move forward, I want you to stay informed, stay steady, and stay realistic. Hope is healthy, but planning your monthly budget around money that hasn't been approved yet is not. What you can do right now is prepare wisely, protect your peace, and let me walk you through every step as new details become available. Now, let's shift our focus to what this proposal could mean specifically for seniors because this is where the impact becomes deeply personal. If these dividend checks move forward, older Americans living on fixed incomes would be among the groups feeling the greatest relief. And I want to pause here gently because I know how many of you have written to me or shared privately that Social Security isn't just a benefit. It's the backbone of your entire budget. It's what keeps the lights on, what pays for your medications, what covers the rising cost of groceries, and what stretches just enough to get you from one month to the next. A one-time payment of $2,000 won't solve every financial burden, but it can lift some of the weight you've been carrying alone for too long. It could allow you to finally fill a prescription you've been delaying. It could help pay off a medical bill that's been sitting on the kitchen table worrying you every night. It could cover a few months of rising utility costs. It might even help you rebuild a small cushion in your savings, something so many seniors lost during the last few years of inflation. Veterans living on disability benefits would feel this relief just as strongly, especially those whose medical needs increase with age. Disabled Americans on SSDI who have watched prices climb while their benefits stayed nearly the same would gain meaningful breathing room. And if you're a senior caring for or supporting grandchildren, something more and the more older Americans are doing, this money could help weaker groceries, school clothes, or simply keeping your household stable. But I want to say something with honesty and compassion. Even though this proposal points clearly towards seniors and everyday Americans who need help the most, nothing is guaranteed until the legal framework becomes official. Please don't reorganize your bills based on the hope of this money. Don't postpone a medical care. Don't assume the payment is coming next week. You are allowed to feel hopeful, but you also deserve to stay financially grounded while we wait for concrete details. And there are practical steps you can take today that will protect you if these checks do become real. The very first step is making sure the IRS has your correct information because if these payments move forward, they will most likely follow the same distribution path as previous federal payments. That means direct deposit to the bank account. The IRS already has a paper check sent to your most recent address. If you've moved in the past year, changed banks, or haven't filed taxes recently because your income is low, now is the time to update that information. You don't need to owe taxes to fill a simple return. And many seniors owe nothing at all, but having updated records can prevent long delays. The next step is something I cannot stress enough. Protect yourself from scammers. Every time major financial news breaks, scammers move quickly, targeting seniors to phone calls, emails, and texts, pretending to come from government agencies. They will claim you need to register or confirm your eligibility or pay a smuli to speed up processing. None of that is real. The government will never ask you for money to receive a payment. They will never call you to verify your social security number. If anyone pressures you, hang up immediately. And while we wait for more clarity about the dividend checks, I also want to remind you that there are real active programs available right now that many seniors qualify for, but never use food assistance for energy costs, state-based rental programs, and the pharmaceutical discount programs that can significantly lower medication expenses. These are not handouts. They exist to protect you, especially during periods of high prices and uncertainty. Why we wait for the government to finalize the details of these potential payments? Your financial stability today still matters. Your peace of mind still matters, and you have every right to use the resources already available to you. So you aren't carrying the entire burden alone. When we step back and look at where things stand right now, it really helps to remember how federal payments have worked in the past because the history gives us valuable clues about what usually happens next. Back to the early months of the pandemic when the government issued the Emile Ducento stimulus checks, payments didn't simply drop out of the sky. They required an entire act of Congress. Lawmakers spent days negotiating the amount, the income limits, the distribution method, and the funding source. Only after the bill was signed into law did the IRS begin sending out payments, the second round of checks, the $600 payments in December of 2012. 20 followed the exact same pattern. End of the third round. The $1,400 checks in March 2021 also required full legislative approval. Even we of the government moving at what felt like record speed, each step still took time, coordination, and legal structure. The reason I'm reminding you of this is simple. It shows us that large-scale financial relief for millions of off Americans cannot be issued instantly even when the intention is strong and the need is urgent. And it also shows us something else. Proposals of this size always require a clear legal foundation before a single dollar can be delivered. The dividend payments being discussed now are actually larger than any of those previous stimulus rounds. Dairy per person would make this one of the most significant direct payments in modern U.S. history. Data makes the proposal serious, not symbolic and historically meaningful. It also means we should expect a process, not a sudden release. Understanding this helps us stay grounded, and that protects you from misinformation or exaggerated timelines floating around online. It keeps your expectations realistic, your finances steady, and your peace of mind intact. The momentum behind this proposal is real, but so are the steps that still need to be taken with everything we've covered. The facts, the rumors, the confirmations, the possibilities. He want to bring you to the clear bottom line. The part one most want you to carry week to you after today's uptake. President Trump has made a very public promise. He intends to issue dividend payments funded by tariff revenue targeted specifically at lower-end middle-income Americans. The White House has confirmed that this plan is being actively worked on, or those are pure solid facts. They tell us the idea is not imaginary. The intention behind it is serious. The effort is underway, but it is equally true that nothing has been finalized. Not the official eligibility rules, not the exact income limits, not the method of distribution, not the timeline. And because nothing is legally in place yet, no payment can be guaranteed, not even one. You know how heavy financial uncertainty feels when you're over 60 and trying to stretch a fixed income across rising expenses? You know how tempting it is to cling tightly to any hope of relief, especially when headlines make it sound so close. But your financial stability matters too much to build around assumptions. So say what I want you to remember. Stay oifulful, but stay practical. Don't skip bills because you believe a check is coming. Don't delay medical care. Don't rearrange your budget around money that isn't approved yet. What you can do is stay informed, protect yourself from scams, make sure your IRS information is up to date, and rely on the real support programs available right now. And, as always, I promise to be here with the calm, clear guidance every step of the way so you never have to navigate uncertainty. Aloon, as we come to the end of today's update, I want to leave you with something more meaningful than numbers or policy details. You know how heavy financial uncertainty can feel at this stage of life. When the news cycle speeds up, when politicians make big promises, and when the internet mixes truth with rumor, it can stir up real anxiety. The kind that sits in your chest, keeps you awake at night, and makes you wonder how you're supposed to plan for tomorrow when today already feels unsure. And if that's how you've been feeling, I want you to know something. You're not alone. You deserve clarity, not confusion. You deserve information that protects your peace of mind, not headlines that raise your blood pressure. That is why I show up for you the way I do, clearly and without the noise. My only goal is to help you feel steady in a word that changes by the hour, the truth I want you to carry with you. This proposal is real. The intention behind it is serious. The momentum is moving, but nothing is finalized yet. And there are still important steps ahead before any check can reach your mailbox or your bank account. And while that may feel frustrating, it's also a reminder that the best thing you can do right now is exactly what you're doing: staying informed, staying cautious, and keeping your financial decisions grounded in what's certain today, not what might come tomorrow. Hope is a good thing. In fact, cope is healthy. But planning ahead is powerful, and both can live side by side in your life without pulling you into fear or false expectations. If today's conversation helped you feel a little calmer, a little clearer, or simply a little less alone in all of this, I'm truly glad. That's why I share these updates, to give you the guidance and reassurance you deserve. And if you haven't already, I would be grateful if you tap the like button and subscribe. It helps more seniors find trustworthy, steady information at a time when they need it most. And before you go, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's, say, one financial lesson you wish you had learned earlier in life? Your story could be the very thing that helps another senior feel supported or make a wiser decision tomorrow. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Be good care of yourself. Stay safe, and remember, you deserve stability, security, and peace of mind, no matter what's happening in Washington. 1.